Hi everybody, this is Tina with Rehatch Designs. Hope everybody's doing well. I am starting a new little project, and mainly it's because I have a ton of scrap pieces left over from my last couple projects that I did, and I mean, I like to save them and use them, but I have so many. I just thought I would do something fun with them. I am going to be using dryer sheets for this, and the only reason that came about is I was, pulling clothes out of the dryer, and I saw a bunch of dryer sheets in there, used ones, and I thought, boy, what can I do with that? And I came up with a few ideas, but this is just one of them. And anyway, this is for used dryer sheets, but I see no reason why you have to use used ones. You could use, ones right now, like these would work just fine in this project. I mean, it wouldn't make any difference really whether they're used or not. In some ways, the new ones would probably work better because they're not wrinkled up or anything like that. But it's not hard to use the used ones. I'm just trying to recycle a little bit, but you could definitely use those. You could also use, this is just a used baby wipe, because I know we use a ton of those. You could definitely use that if you wanted to too. I don't think it really matters that much, but the other thing that you could use is this is the iron-on what do you call it, interfacing that you buy, and it doesn't even have to be the iron-on, it could be just any kind. You could use that if you don't have any of the dryer sheets or wipes, but I think most people have those. In fact, it probably would be easier to use the interfacing, but honestly, I personally think, this will work just fine with the dryer sheets. And there's different kinds of dryer sheets out there, and they're different sizes. Some are bigger, some are smaller. And this project is going to take a certain amount of dryer sheet or width and length. So depending upon your dryer sheet, it may, or your baby wipe or whatever, it's going to dictate your size of what you're doing. Ultimately, what I'm doing, guys, is nothing earth-shattering, but I am in a nutshell going to make snippets. I have some over here that I've made before, and I just recently made, in fact, I think I made this one. Made them on my channel. This is one I put little beads down or pearls on. Here's another one. I think I have pieces of another one over here too. Here's that piece. I use these a lot, so here's one that I did here. These are some that I made with just some oh gosh, I can't, crepe paper, just to give it, they were kind of grungy. Here's another kind of grungy one there. But anyway, I make these all the time just because it's a great way to use your scraps. But in this situation, what we're going to do is we're going to be making a wider ones in strips, because what we're going to do is we are going to make a journal cover with these. This is one of them that I've made, and I'm going to go ahead and go through the process of making one just in case you guys did not see my other video recently. And also, it was a pretty crappy video because my light was flashing the entire time. I didn't even realize that. I didn't see it. So I didn't realize it until I went to go edit it, and I went, what is that flashing? And it was one of the light bulbs in my aught lights was going out, and I guess it just, you know, it just didn't, I couldn't see it. So it's really kind of weird that I didn't notice it. But anyway, I'm going to mainly be using pinks and beige and white for this, but you can use any colors. This is just what I have a lot of leftovers. This is from my last few projects, and I did a lot of pink things, so I have all this. And I'm going to be using the wipes, not the wipes, the dryer sheet. And this one I have here is approximately 9 inches by almost 6 inches. Okay, so this is about the size I'm going to use. It doesn't really matter what your size is because you can connect them and make them the size that you need. So I'm making strips, and I just basically am cutting this in half, and doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to make it reasonably in half. And I am going to connect these two right here and just make a long strip. And I'm going to use my art glitter glue because I want it to dry fairly quickly. But anyway, I've done snippets before, and I love doing them. And ooh, if you're bored with that, you can just skip to the end. But well, it's not going as fast as I thought it would. Here we go. I don't know why that's not working. Just let it sit there for a second. Maybe I'll have to use my other glue. That's weird. I've never had it not work, so. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I've been trying to get some things done around the house because, I don't know, my garage just looks like it's just so much stuff in it. And partly because I cleaned out closets, and all that I did is I ended up putting stuff in the garage. So I need to, donate a bunch of it and get rid of it and stuff like that. Okay, so now I end up with a strip that's probably right around 17 inches long, which is pretty long. But by the time we get done with it, it won't be that long. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I am going to just take pieces, and I kind of have a way that I do this is I usually take like material pieces, like strips like that. I'll pull out a bunch of those, and then let me see if I have any other, like I have that. Let me see if I have any more of that. You guys can kind of see what I'm doing here, what my game plan is. Yeah, like see I have that piece here. That'll be more than enough. Maybe some ribbon. And I'm trying to I'm not trying to necessarily make a match, but I am paying attention to that because all of these are going to, they're all going to be together on the cover. So I am kind of paying a little bit of attention to that. So I'm going to put that aside. And all I really do is I start cutting pieces, and I would say they're maybe an inch. And I usually wind up cutting more than I need, but that's okay because ultimately they get used at some point. Okay, so now I'm going to take, where did that go? This is just tacky glue, and I have watered it down a little bit just because it's kind of too thick to use for me. this way. And I like to, if I can get the right brush, I like a little bit of a stiffer brush. I like to take, this is a very well loved brush, my tacky glue, and I do use my my 3-in-1 for this too, but I'm going to use tacky glue for this just because it's cheaper. And I just go all the way around. I just take little pieces. I don't care if it's glued down perfectly, because we're going to sew it later. And I just take a little bit here and there. And I'm taking the same one and I'm going across, and that just kind of keeps me, and if I happen to pick up one that's not the same, that's not a big deal. And I just keep going. I didn't put anything down there, did I? And of course this does dry clear, so you're good. And I just go all the way down. What I do is I just kind of make sure that I have plenty of this scattered throughout. Okay, my little thing here. Like I can tell I need something right there. And that is how I start filling in all the pieces. Somehow, I don't know why, but I end up usually doing the more solid pieces first. Now I guess you could, paint the whole thing and put it down, and I have done that before, but your glue starts to dry. It doesn't stick that well. And I honestly don't like it when I put too much glue. I've done that before and it turns out okay, but I don't think it turns out as well. So now of course my mat's going to get glue all over it, but that's okay. I can clean that off. let me see. I am going to use, for the eyelash trim, I'm going to use my 3-in-1, and that's because I like it to grab fairly easily. And I'm going to go ahead and go, just kind of make a little squiggly going across like this. And the only reason I'm doing that is I'm going to kind of put it all over, and I just need enough of it to catch. So I'm just going to take this piece, and I'm going to kind of, and I'm not necessarily going back and forth with this, but I want it to look random. I don't want it to look like I, you know, just stuck it on there. But you won't be able to tell when you're done anyway, because honestly guys, this is going to get so covered up with other stuff. Alright, now this is the hard part because my hands are all sticky. Where's my little pointy thing that I have? I have this silicone thing and my little pointy thing. And when you don't want, when your hands start getting sticky and everything sticks to it, this thing works great, okay? Let that dry overnight. I'm going to go take this. I put it on, I have a silicone mat over here, and I just let it sit there and it will stay there overnight. And if I need to add anything to it, I do. I don't really worry about that because I haven't sewn it yet. Okay, so now that I've sewn this, you can see it looks completely different, I think, after you sew it, because it kind of smushes all the pieces down. I went over this, I think, 3 times. It probably could use a 4th maybe, but I think we're okay. Now what we're going to do is, I have done this a total of 4 times. Okay, so honestly we probably could just use 3 times and we'd be fine, but I'm going to actually use one of these in another part. Okay, so what we're going to do now, guys, is we are going to construct a cover out of our snippet rolls. We are just basically going to make a cover out of these, and the way that I'm going to do that is I am going to take just some cotton material, and I'm going to cut it down to the size that I want my cover. Let's see. I want to do it about 14 inches by 9 inches, I think. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to try and rip it to right where I want it, but we shall see. So here is our piece of fabric, and all we're going to do, the reason we came up with 14 by 9 is we're probably going to end up with a little bit above 8.5 inches, maybe 8 3/4 for our height. And the width is, if we come up with 6 inches on each side and then add a 2-inch spine, then we're looking at 6 and 6 are 12, plus 2 inches is 14 inches. So, and I always try and make my spine, you know, a little big, but this is going to end up being a cloth or fabric journal, okay? So what I'm going to do though is I am going to put these snippet rolls on the wrong side of the fabric. This is the right side, and this is the back side, and that doesn't really matter. They'll all get glued down. And I'm going to figure out where I want these pieces, and I'm going to overlap them, okay? And these are actually going to be a little bit too big for this journal, which is fine. I'm going to let it hang off a little bit. Not too much though. Let me see. I think I might put this one in the middle. And what I'm doing is these pieces right here, these little extra pieces, I didn't cut any of those off because I want them to overlap so that you can't see where one of these little snippet ends and one begins. And this is the one that we just made, and I'm going to leave that for later because that is going to end up being in another part of the journal. Okay, I think that's good. Maybe let me see what it looks like this way. I'm trying to make sure that if there's any little pockets that I haven't covered, and that's not a big deal either, because we can go back in and fix that. I think maybe this needs to go up a tiny bit. Maybe I might turn this around and see how that looks. I don't know if I want this on top or on the bottom. That's kind of what I'm doing, guys, is I'm just figuring out which way I want it. Because these aren't exactly perfectly straight, and that's okay. It doesn't, we'll have them all, they will all work when we get done. Okay. I think that has to go there a little bit. Yep, I think we're good. I think that's perfect right there. Okay, so that is going to be what our cover is going to look like. And all we're going to do right now is I am going to take some 3-in-1 glue, because I like this where it is. You could pin this down. You know what? Actually, I think what I'm going to do, because I want to sew this, I'm going to go ahead and take, just as I use my Scotch glue stick, and I'm going to use that because that will tack this down enough that I can sew this, and I don't have to worry about it drying because it'll dry very quickly. It needs to go up a tiny bit. There we go. So I am just going to take my glue stick and just kind of take it and use it to tack my material down. Now this one's different, but I'm going to have to glue it before I do the other one. Let's see if I can get that to stick down. And what I'm going to do now that I have this all kind of glued where I want it, okay, the goal really is to be covering all of that piece of material. And we have one little spot right there, but I'm not worried about it because I'm going to take a tiny bit of this material here and a piece of lace, and I'm going to just put that in that corner, and when I sew it, it's just going to cover that right up. So put that right here sideways. Where'd my little piece of lace go? So I will make sure I cover that. Okay, anyway, so that is the whole thing right there. Oh, I have another little spot right there. Just take a little bit of lace, a little bit of trim, and just kind of fill in that spot, but I don't think you're going to even notice it when we get done. So I will put that right here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm filling in that spot. I don't see any other spots, but if I did see any, what I would do is I would just put material down with my glue stick, and when I'm sewing over this, it will catch it, and it'll be all sewn. And we're going to end up trimming this when we're done. Okay, so I've got this down enough to where it'll be easy for me to sew. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to sew all the way around it in the square. You'll see here, go all the way around here. Alright, so I've sewn around it, I went all the way around it, and then I made sure I picked up all of the end pieces here to kind of connect them together, more than just like the little bit of glue in there. If you want to go over this more, you can. I think it'll be fine. You could glue it also if you wanted to, but we're going to be putting this lace on top of this. That's why I said it didn't really matter on this sewing on the bottom, because you won't even see that. And so if you wanted to go over this more, you could, a little bit more, just to kind of make everything stick down more, but I actually think it's doing fine. You don't want it too stuck down, because then it kind of defeats the purpose of this whole look. But you definitely could go in, like here, there's a few pieces here and there, and just go across a few more times, and I may do that, and just go down a few more times before I put this on. But anyway, what you want to do then is you want to go ahead and kind of piece your lace, and it doesn't matter if you make it a little big, because you can kind of trim it off later. So I'm just going to kind of take this piece and kind of figure out where I need to cut it, and it's going to be big, but that's okay. And then that way I can sew this on, okay? And I'm probably just going to go ahead and sew all the way around the end, and then maybe down the middle, and that's it, okay? Because I don't want a lot of sewing all over it. And so that's, let me just cut it out. But anyway, so then this is just going to kind of go on here, and I cut it really crooked, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter, because you can pin it on there if you want to do that before you sew it. I really love using my glue stick. I know it sounds lazy, but it works. So I mean, I don't expect it to permanently keep it on there, but it keeps it there long enough that I can, you know, sew around it. So I'm doing that. And I will cut around this after. I'm not worried about it now. I don't really want to kind of be cutting while it's just temporarily glued down. I'm going to sew. Okay. All right. So now that I've done that, okay, it's on there good. I'm just going to sew around it, and I will be right back. Okay, so I sewed around the edges. I didn't sew in the middle because I was afraid it would bunch up and I didn't want it to like pull. And I don't think it really is going to need it because once we sew in the signatures and everything, it'll be there, and then we're going to put pockets and all that. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut my pink lace on the inside as close as I can to the edge. I'm not worried about it being perfect because I'm going to be covering it up with some trim. So I'm just going to take it and kind of pull up on it and get as close as I can to the edge of where I sewed it. And I just did a zigzag stitch around this. I just did with some very light pink thread so it would kind of blend in. All right. So now that we've done that, this is mostly what our cover is going to look like. I'm going to go ahead and put this trim all the way around the edges, that raw edge, and so that will cover all that up. But here's my thing. I've got to cut off what I'm not going to use of my snippet because it's not perfect. So this is, remember we decided we cut this the length that we needed it, so we know what it needs to be. So I don't want this to be too perfect, but I don't need it that much past the 14. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my guide of what I did before. And I'm going to get it right there. And I'm going to cut that right there. Okay. And then let me, oh, I didn't get that very good right there. Alright, so we got that. And now we have to cut this side. We've got all this. And I'm using my my piece of material that I had already measured. My 14 inches across. And we cut that. Alright, now I'm going to look at the top. And on the top I don't have that much hanging over. You don't see any of the other stuff. I just have a few pieces here and there, and I'm going to kind of cut a few, but I'm not going to give that a haircut until I'm all done. I think I'm going to leave it, any of these little pieces, because I want that kind of look. I don't want it to look too trimmed up. Okay, so there we go with that. So all I'm going to do on this piece is, you could definitely sew it on, but I think I'm just going to glue it. Just going to use my 3-in-1 glue. And honestly, it looks pretty good without it, but I just think that it'll look good with this on there. just going to go ahead and kind of figure out how I'm going to do the end. And I think I'll just cut that straight across. This one is too short, so I got to pull it down. Right? Under, one of those two. Under, over, who knows, right? It doesn't really matter, because in the end what I do is I just take my scissor like this and I kind of round it a little bit so it doesn't look so like, you know, squared on the end. Just go like that, and it just tends to blend it in a little bit more and you don't notice the end. Okay, so that's pretty much what our journal is going to look like, and I've decided I'm going to go ahead and put the pockets on now just to kind of show you guys. This was our strip that we made together, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make a pocket over here, and then I'm going to make just a little kind of belly band right here. Okay, so I want this to go, I really don't want it to go all of 6 inches. Let me think here. 6 inches is right here, and so that's 6 inches is right there. I probably want it to go right about 5 inches, maybe right here. So I'm going to cut this right here, but I don't want it that straight on that edge, so I'm going to have to work with that. Let's see here. I want it to look a little bit more jagged, so I think what I'm going to do is kind of go like that a little bit in here, go like that, and just do that. It doesn't look quite as good as I want it to, so I might put some material right here. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, so my pocket's going to go there, and then I'm going to put this on this side, and I kind of want to put it, let's see, that's going to go there, and I'm going to sew them in. I was going to glue them, but then I decided I could sew them, because if I sew through this, you'll never notice it on the other end, because it's so busy. I'm going to do that right here. Or do I want to leave that jagged edge? Maybe I'll leave the jagged edge, because I like that better. And then I'm going to have to cut this right here, but I don't want it perfect, so I have to kind of, that's not going to work. Alright, let me just do that a little bit right here. Yeah, I don't want it to stick up, but at the same time, let's see how that's going to look on the end. You're going to be able to see that. I got to cut it shorter. Let's see how that works. Yeah. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I am going to tack this down with glue, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew it. Okay, so, you know, I think I'm just going to use my glue stick again, that way I know. Well, I'll go ahead and use this. So this is our cover. I think it turned out great. A great way to use up all your little leftovers, and it's a really cute, unique look. It didn't really take all that long. And anyway, so I'm probably going to put a tie on this later. Here's our pocket, and I decided to make this a side tuck and not a belly band, but I think it turned out really cute. So thanks for watching, guys, and hope this gave you some inspiration, and I'll see you later.